Hello, welcome to the Math Success Workshop. This is part 7, the last part of this workshop, where we're going to talk about habits. Right? So, question for you, do you have any habits in math class? And then, are they good habits or bad habits? Right? Somebody once said, and I don't know who this quote is from, but you are what you do repeatedly. Right? So, whatever you do over and over again, that kind of makes up what kind of person you are. Right? So, like a couple examples of that. When I was in college, I had a friend who used to drink all the time, like drinking beer, drinking alcohol pretty much every day. And he would always say, like, oh, I'm not really a drinker. I just like to drink. Like, guess what, dude? You drink every day until you're like fall down drunk. Like, you're an alcoholic. Like, you can say you're not, but you are your habits. Like, that's what you do every day. That's what you are, right? Another example, like I used to run all the time. Like I would run 2 or 3 times a week, go out and run for a few miles each time. Last Thanksgiving I hurt my knee and I haven't run since then. Well, guess what? I can't really call myself a runner anymore because I don't do that anymore. That's not one of my habits now, right? I've like got lazy and I don't do it, so I can't really call myself that because that's not one of my habits, right? So you are what you do habitually. Whatever your habits are, that determines what type of person you are, right? So taking that into math class, right? If you say, well, I'm a really bad math student, well, you're probably a bad math student because you have bad habits in math class. If you could start using some good habits in class, you would probably become a good student, right? Now, some people say, oh, I'm a really good student, but they have all these bad habits and they're actually not that good of a student, right? So when trying to figure this stuff out, like how to do better in math class, you really have to be honest with yourself, right? Do I have good habits or do I have bad habits? And if you recognize and if you can admit to yourself that you have bad habits, well, then you can correct those habits and change them into good habits and make yourself a better student, right? And that's what this last video here is going to be all about, right? So first off, some bad habits that people have in math class, or really, and I'm doing all this in the lens of a math class, but this really applies to any class that you're in. It doesn't have to be just for a math class. So first thing, not paying attention in class. That's a really bad habit, right? You're missing what's going on. You're not paying attention. You're just not interested in it. Like I understand, not everybody's interested in math, and that's okay. Not everybody has to be a mathematician. Like I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, you should do well in math because math is the best and you need to be awesome at it. Like not everybody likes it, and that's okay. But if you want to do better at it, not paying attention in class is not going to help you get better, right? So that's a bad habit to have in math class. Not paying attention to the person trying to help you. If you watch the last video that we did about seeking help in a math class, if you go to visit a tutor or supplemental instructor or your professor and you ask them for help, and then they're trying to help you and you're just like not paying attention to what they're saying, one, you're not getting the help you really need, and two, that's incredibly rude and kind of annoying for the person who's trying to help you if you're not even paying attention to what they're trying to tell you, right? So if you do go get help, pay attention, be focused, be present with what's going on there so that you can get the help you need. Another bad habit, expecting somebody else to do it all for you, right? This is something else that happens sometimes when you go to see a tutor. And I not only do I teach math, but I also tutor math, and I've worked with students who have done these things. Like I've helped a person who was not paying attention. Like I'm trying to show them how to do their homework, and they're like looking out the window and not listening to what I'm saying. Guess what? I'm probably not going to help you anymore after this because you're not focused on what's going on, right? I've also had people come in and expect me to do everything for them. Like, oh, I have this homework assignment due tomorrow. I'm like, okay, let me help you out. Well, can you just do it and just do it for me? Well, no, that's not my job, first of all. And second of all, at some point you're going to have to sit down for a quiz or a test, and you're going to have to do this yourself. So, starting now is when you should start doing it for yourself so that you're able to actually do it, right? So don't expect somebody else to do all the work for you. You have to be the one to put in the effort in order to do well. Another bad habit, not using materials, not using your notes, not using your book. Again, I've experienced this as a tutor. A student comes in and says, oh, I don't know how to do, this thing we did in class, I don't know how to do it. I'm like, okay, well, do you have like a homework assignment you're working on? Like, oh, no, it's online homework, but I didn't bring my computer. I'm like, okay, well, do you have your notes from class that, we can look over maybe some examples in class and I explain those to you? Oh, no, I didn't bring my notes either. That's a bad habit. Right? If you're going to work on something, you need to have the materials that you need in order to work, right? If you have online homework, you got to have a computer or something to get to the online homework. You need to have your notes, your book will be helpful as well. And if you're going to get help from somebody, bring those things those materials that will help you get help. All right. Another bad habit: waiting until the last minute. Again, something I've experienced as a tutor. The tutoring center is open till 10 o'clock. Somebody comes in at about 9:45 and says, I have a test tomorrow, but I don't understand anything that's happened the past couple weeks. Can you show me how to do it? And I'm like, we close in 15 minutes, so that's not enough time to really show you everything that's happened. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to help you, get an A on this test tomorrow. It's just not going to work, right? I would like to help. I'll help as much as I can in the last 15 minutes here. But if you wait until the last minute to try to get help with something or to try to do something that's due very soon, it's another bad habit that usually doesn't work out too well for the person who has that habit. Making excuses. I've heard this also a number of times as a tutor and also as a teacher. People just say, well, I'm just not a math person. Or I got a D in this class, or I'm going to get a D in this class. Well, that's okay because I'm not a math person. All right. Well, another quote, and again, I don't know who said this, and I'm not probably quoting it exactly, just paraphrasing it. But if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. Right? If you say over and over again, I'm not a math person, well, you're never going to be a math person, right? Because you're arguing for that limitation on yourself that you're just not good at math. Right? If you turn it around and say, well, I'm not that good at math right now, but I'm going to work at it and get better, well, now maybe you have a chance to actually work on it and get better. Right? But if you just keep making excuses for yourself, just saying, I'm not a math person, I've never been good at math, you're not very likely to get better at it if that's your overall attitude towards it. Right? So that's another bad habit that you should try to shake from yourself if you have that habit. Another bad habit: relying on web-based problem solvers. I talked about this previously in the video I did about doing your math homework. If you just type problems into an online thing and it tells you the answer and you just write that down and then that's that's how you do your homework, you'll do fine on the homework, but when you sit down for a quiz and a test, are you really going to be able to do those problems yourself if you haven't actually done it yourself all along, if you've been relying on this online tool to do it for you? It's probably not going to work out too well, right? So that's another bad habit, right? And those things have their place, those web-based problem solvers. they can help you figure out how to do a problem. So you can use those. I'm not saying don't ever use that type of thing, but use it as a tool to help you understand rather than just something that's going to do the work for you. Right, that's where it becomes a really bad habit. This is just going to do it for me, and I don't have to think about it at all, and now my homework's done. Right, that's another bad habit. Another bad habit people sometimes have in math is overthinking. All right, I've come across this quite a bit too as a tutor and as a teacher. People sit down to do a math problem, and they're working on it, and they're doing it, and they get the right answer, and then they look at it again, they're like, wait a minute, I think I probably messed something up here. And then they erase it all and do it completely differently and end up with the wrong answer. Right? I've seen that happen a number of times. Right? So overthinking is another bad habit, and this really comes from not having enough confidence that you're doing it right the first time. Right? So it all comes down to, like I've said on some of these other videos, if you put the work in, if you're kind of reviewing as you go along, if you're keeping up with the homework and really understanding how to do the homework problems, then when you sit down to do a quiz or a test, you're not as likely to overthink things, right? You've done a bunch of problems, you see this thing on the test, you know how to do it, you've done it a bunch of times before, you just do it and you know that you did it right, and then you move on to the next one, right? It's when you don't have that confidence that you start overthinking, like, well, I did this, but then now is there another way I was supposed to do, or did I do something wrong? And then that's when you start making mistakes. All right, so that's another bad habit that you should try to avoid. All right, so again, here we have a bunch of bad habits, and hopefully you don't have all of these bad habits. But if you have any of them, then those are things that you can focus on right now and saying, oh, I have this bad habit that I always wait until the last minute. So let me work on that and let me try to not do that anymore. And then that's kind of your starting point towards becoming a better math student, right? So the first thing is recognizing any bad habits that you have. And then the second part of it is wanting to change those habits, right? If you don't really want to change those habits, you're like, oh yeah, I always wait till the last minute, but whatever, I'm just a procrastinator, ha ha ha, whatever. Well, then you're not really interested in changing those habits, and nothing's really going to change for you, right? So again, a lot of this stuff, this whole math success workshop that I've been talking about, these past 7 videos, lots of advice, lots of things you can do, but every single one of them comes down to you, right? You have to be the one to initiate all this stuff, to make the changes in the way you do things, to change your habits, to become a better student, right? So again, you can't expect somebody else to do it for you. You know, I can give you all this advice, but I can't actually make you do these things, right? You have to do them yourself. All right, so let's end here on a positive note. Let's look at some good habits that you can have to help you do well in a math class, right? Number one, being organized. Really important in math, really important in a lot of aspects of life, really, not just school, but in a lot of parts of life. Being organized is an important thing, right? Being able to find the materials you need, you know, having your notes and your homework all organized. And we talked about that in some of the other videos in a lot more detail. But being organized is a really good habit, right? So if you're not organized, that's one thing you can do. All right, let me just get myself organized. And just by doing that, you might find that things get a little bit easier for you. Have a homework or a study routine, like I mentioned in some of the other videos. You know, I'm going to do my homework every night, every Tuesday night from 9 to 10. That's my math homework time. I'm going to study before a test for 1 hour every night, you know, in the 5 nights leading up to the test. You know, have that routine, and then also have the self-discipline to stick to the routine. That's another key thing. Take good notes. You know, I did an entire video about taking notes, so you can go back and watch that one. But taking good notes is a good habit that you need to get into if you want to do well in math. Trying problems before asking for help, right? Don't just, you know, sit in class and say, wow, this stuff is hard. Let me go directly to a tutor and ask them to help me. You know, sit down for a couple minutes by yourself and try those problems before you just immediately ask somebody else for help, right? That struggle is how you learn, right? Just having somebody else show you how to do it is good. It helps. But when you struggle with it yourself, and then you can kind of see where you're getting hung up, you can see where you're making mistakes, and then when you get somebody to help you, you're like, oh, this is where I made that mistake, this is what I need to do to fix it, now I know what to do, right? So trying those problems before asking for help is a really good habit to get into. Bringing your notes in your book when you're seeking help. Again, don't just show up empty-handed and say, I need you to teach me everything I need to know about geometry or algebra or whatever it is. Bring the materials you need so that you can refer to, you know, to get the information you need out of it. Be interested in learning how to figure out a problem rather than just wanting to get the homework done. Again, this is a good habit that not everybody has. You know, some students who don't like math, they just want to get the homework done and be done with it. And that's, again, there's nothing really wrong with that. But if you're trying to be a better math student, trying to get better grades in your math class, one thing you can do is try to take an interest in it. Math can be pretty interesting when you really get into it and start thinking about it, and you see like all the logic behind it, and you know the way all these different topics kind of tie together. It can be an interesting thing. So if you try to take an interest in learning how to figure out a problem, it's almost like solving a puzzle, right? If you ever done a puzzle before, or played some type of like video game that's kind of like puzzle based, you know, math problems are kind of similar to that. So if you kind of look at it that way, it might be a little more interesting for you, and you might, you know, if you have that interest, then that helps you to pay attention better and to really concentrate on what you're doing, and it helps you remember better what you actually do when you solve problems. Another good habit to get into is to ask specific questions, right? Be aware of what you do understand and what you don't understand. And this goes back to the one a couple up above, you know, try the problems yourself before you ask for help. Then you kind of know, like, I know when I start this problem, I'm supposed to do this, and then I get to this third step and I forget what to do. You've kind of self-diagnosed what the problem is, and now you can get somebody to help you very easily because you know exactly what the problem is, you know exactly where you're making mistakes, and then if they show you maybe just one little thing, it just clears it all up and you're all set to go, right? So asking specific questions is a good habit. You know, walking into a tutor or to your professor and saying, I don't understand anything. That doesn't help because they're not going to be able to teach you everything all at once, right? So you need to be able to ask more specific questions, right? And then the last good habit to have is to come for help early and often. If you're trying to get better at math, you may need help from other people to help you do that, whether it's your professor or classmates or, you know, tutors. Again, don't wait till the last minute. Don't wait too long. Come in early, and then come in, you know, as often as you need to, right? Don't just say, well, I went to a tutor one time back in the first week of the class, so now I'm going to get an A in this class because I went to a tutor once. If you need help, then you need help usually pretty regularly, so keep on coming in and getting help as often as you need. All right, so again, these are some good habits that could help you become a better math student. And again, you may not be able to do all of these things, but start with one, right? Just pick one. Like, I'm going to start being more organized, see how that goes, and if that goes well, pick another one of these and start doing that, and before too long, you'll be a pretty good math student. All right? Good. Good luck, everybody.